Welcome to Love Story with Lisa, where I share romantic audio stories. Today, I'll tell you a new love story. 8 Princes and 5 Princesses. While it wasn't quite a 3,000 beauties in the harem situation, there were still over a dozen consorts and favored ladies. The eldest prince had died years ago on the distant battlefield fighting the Northern Army. The second prince, born of the same mother as the eldest, had chosen to follow in his brother's footsteps and requested to be stationed in the north, returning home only once or twice a year. The fourth prince, Chu Siyuan, was obsessed with astrology and worked in the secret archives. The remaining princes were all still quite young, none of them married yet, which meant that, at present, I was the only princess consort in Xianan City. Rare things are precious. At the evening palace banquet, I became the center of attention among the noble ladies and young misses of various families. Dressed in formal attire, my head weighed down with hairpins and ornaments, my face carefully made up, so much so that even eating felt uncomfortable. I could only maintain a stiff smile the entire time. In the end, I seized an opportunity to quietly slip away, searching for a secluded place to breathe. Just then, the sound of footsteps caught my attention. When I saw who it was, I could only helplessly stand and bow. "Your servant greets your majesty." The emperor, Chu Jisheng, waved his hand, signaling me to rise. He cleared his throat a few times, as if searching for the right words. "Why did you come out here alone?" "Your majesty, it was too noisy inside. I wished to come out for some fresh air." I kept my tone respectful, every word and gesture proper. Chu Jisheng seemed to shed the imposing air of an emperor and instead looked like a kind elder. "Jinx, dressed like this, you look very beautiful." "Your Majesty, no matter how much you praise me, it won't change the fact that I was forced to marry your son." Seeing me revert to my usual blunt self, Chu Jisheng seemed to relax slightly. "Is Jingyun not good to you?" "He is. But no matter how good he is, it's not as interesting as chasing bandits in the Western Territories. You still haven't let go of what happened back then." "How could I?" I said calmly, without hiding anything, though my words carried a chilling sharpness. "Even if I turn into a ghost, I'll still hunt them down and make them pay." Chu Jisheng looked at me with a complicated expression, as if he had much to say, but in the end, he only sighed and gently patted my shoulder. "If she were still alive, she wouldn't want to see you like this." "Perhaps." This time, I didn't argue. After the banquet ended, the days at the summer palace became dull and uneventful. I didn't get along with those noble ladies. Yet they kept trying to approach me. To find some peace, I spent my days hiding in the Empress's quarters. The Empress preferred quiet, so she had excused everyone from formal greetings during this period. I sprawled lazily on a chair, watching her embroider in silence, unable to hold back my curiosity. "Mother, why are you still doing needlework like this?" "To pass the time," she said with a gentle smile. "Don't you find life in the harem rather dull?" "Dull?" I tilted my head. "I think it's rare to have such peaceful, idle days." Thinking of those concubines who couldn't go a day without stirring up trouble, I grew curious. How did someone like the Empress, with such a calm temperament, manage to hold her position as the head of the harem for so many years? "A little luck, a little loss. And perhaps some marital affection," she said lightly. I hadn't even asked yet. "You're too easy to read," she added, tapping my forehead gently with her slender finger. Only then did I realize. The woman before me, though gentle and kind, had a mind far more perceptive than it appeared. Of course, someone who could sit firmly as Empress for so many years could never be simple. "Jinx," she continued softly, taking a sip of tea, Although the crown prince is not my biological son, I raised him from childhood. To me, he and Jingyun are equally important. I was busy peeling a chilled lychee. It was so cold it made my fingers ache. The young lady of the Chow family is lively and clever. She will visit me in a few days. I think the two of you will get along well. The empress instructed a palace maid to bring a warm cloth and gently wiped my hands. No matter how delicious lychees are, you shouldn't eat too many. They'll cause internal heat. My cold fingertips slowly warmed. I blinked, looked at my clean hands, then lifted my head and smiled innocently. I was peeling them for you, mother. The empress froze for a moment, then suddenly pulled me into her embrace, gently patting my head. I've always wanted a daughter. As expected, only daughters know how to care for you. Much better than those troublesome boys. Hearing her soft voice, I wrapped my arms around her waist as well. I can also carve apples into little rabbits, I said proudly, and make lanterns out of watermelons too. Our Jins is truly talented in so many ways. I couldn't see the empress's expression, but I could guess she must be very happy, and I was happy too. Come to think of it, the emperor really was busy. I had stayed with the empress for 7 or 8 days straight. Yet he hadn't come even once. Nor had he visited any of the other consorts. Clearly, everyone had come here to escape the heat, but only the emperor had simply changed locations to continue working. Being the ruler of a nation really wasn't that great after all. At noon, I was sitting there tearing apart a honey-roasted chicken when Chu Jisheng walked in, his face dark and gloomy. The empress was about to rise and greet him, but he stopped her. Meanwhile, I was stuffing my cheeks with roast duck. I hastily set it aside and dropped to my knees. Your daughter-in-law greets Father Emperor. Get up, Chu Jisheng said, turning away with a long sigh. I had no idea what that sigh meant, so I simply sat back down and continued eating. I remember the empress always preferred light dishes. Chu Jisheng frowned, staring at the table full of meat. The empress personally handed him a bowl of tofu soup, smiling gently. It's good to change flavors once in a while. Zitong, you don't need to cover for her, he said, glancing at me. It's obvious these are all dishes she likes. Under his sharp stare, I felt he was being completely unreasonable. Father Emperor, look, there's stir-fried greens, stir-fried beans, bean sprouts with shrimp, mixed vegetables, and tofu soup you just drank. These are all light dishes. Don't make it sound like I'm starving your wife. How can a young lady eat with such poor manners? Chu Jisheng frowned again, staring at the roast duck in my hand. Mother said she likes my innocent and natural demeanor, I replied. Innocent? He scoffed. I swallowed my irritation and continued gnawing on the duck. The empress chuckled softly, placing more food into Chu Jisheng's bowl. Though he looked like he had no appetite, he still obediently ate everything she gave him. Afraid of his wife, I secretly mocked him in my heart. After finishing 3 bowls of rice and finally putting down my chopsticks to wash my hands, Chu Jisheng suddenly spoke again. Why are you still here? Where else should I be? I asked reflexively, momentarily forgetting formalities. He didn't mind. Instead, he immediately ordered someone to drag me out. I don't care where you go. Just don't stay here with the Empress all day. Only then did I realize, so the reason he hadn't been visiting the Empress wasn't because he was busy, but because I had been clinging to her the entire time. I hadn't even gotten to eat dessert yet. Being single really had no perks. Wait. I wasn't single anymore. Chen Wanjun must have been paying attention to me these past few days. Otherwise, how could she appear right in front of me the moment I was thrown out of the Empress's quarters? I had no interest in getting entangled with this white lotus, so I stood up, dusted myself off, and prepared to leave. But she stepped in front of me, her posture graceful and delicate. "Miss Su, would you like to take a walk with me?" Not consort of Prince Jingyun, but Miss Su. Interesting. I wanted to see what she was up to. As we walked, Chen Wanjun kept talking about Chu Jingyun's childhood, her voice soft and gentle, her smile faint and elegant. Unless I was an idiot, anyone could tell she was subtly showing off how well she knew him. But what use was that? Right now, I was the consort of Prince Jingyun. I responded half-heartedly, just enough to be polite. When we reached the horse grounds near the summer palace, Chen Wanjun suddenly suggested riding out to explore the surroundings. I knew that although she was the daughter of a civil official, she had learned horseback riding and archery from a young age because of Chu Jingshan. I had to admit, the crown prince treated her very well. He gave her the best food, took her to all the most interesting places. Unfortunately, all his sincerity couldn't compete with one gentle smile from Chu Jingyun. The crown prince really was pitiful. Even I started to feel a little sympathy for that fierce-tempered fool. Since I rarely stayed in Xianan City, I wasn't familiar with most of the royal nobles here, nor did I know much about them. The Su family had always served in positions like the Imperial Medical Bureau or ceremonial offices, never holding real power. We had little value in political marriages, and rarely attended court banquets. To others, we probably had almost no presence at all. I glanced at my own slender arms and legs, hands that looked like they couldn't even truss a chicken. To outsiders, I probably looked like one of those delicate young ladies raised in seclusion, never lifting a finger. Was she trying to make things difficult for me? Fine. I smiled and agreed to her suggestion. Following behind her, I walked to the stables and chose a horse that looked gentle and obedient. Looking at the jet-black horse, I couldn't help but laugh. If you didn't have that black tail, everyone would probably call you the Black Mouth, wouldn't they? I wasn't sure whether the horse understood me, but it suddenly flicked its ears and nudged its head affectionately toward me. So cute. Seeing how friendly the fine steed was, I couldn't resist wrapping my arms around its head. It clearly liked me too, waving its tail and rubbing against me as if playing, after fooling around like that for a while. The stable hands helped me mount. By then, Chen Wanjun had already ridden a full lap around the grassland. She was riding a white horse, clearly a fine one she had brought herself. I slowly rode over to her. When Chen Wanjun saw my horse, she looked slightly surprised, but quickly masked it. We rode a few laps together across the grassland. To be honest, I wasn't particularly interested in riding, so I soon stopped and watched her galloping freely in the distance. Bored, I began patting my horse's back and playing with its tail. The tail was long and beautiful, seemingly dyed black, though the very ends were white. It felt soft and smooth, much softer than ordinary horse tails. The more I touched it, the more tempted I became, so I decided to braid it. Xiao Zhu ran over and handed me a blue ribbon. Looking at my finished work, I felt quite pleased with myself. She has never had a good temper. A gentle voice suddenly turned cold. I turned my head. Chen Wanjun had somehow come up beside me. Her gaze toward the horse was complicated. Who? I asked. Shi. That's its name. Oh. I nodded and turned back to admire my handiwork. Miss Su, don't you have anything you want to ask? She spoke again when I remained silent. What would Miss Chen like me to ask? I looked at her directly. Chen Wanjun pressed her lips together, staring at me. When she didn't continue, I turned my horse, preparing to leave. Where are you going? She grabbed my reins. Back. I'm not that fond of riding, I replied bluntly. My tone was calm, my manner polite. But she said nothing. What exactly was this girl trying to do? Speaking or acting, she was always slow and hesitant, frustratingly so. I forced myself to suppress my impatience. After a long silence, she finally let go of the reins. Seeing her expression, as if she wanted to say something, I deliberately waited, but all I got was her turning away without another glance. Ridiculous. It almost felt like I had been the one trying to strike up a conversation. Someone once said, "We never know whether tomorrow or an accident will come first." At that moment, I felt those words were frighteningly accurate, already irritated by Chen Wanjuan's indecisiveness. I tugged the reins and urged my horse forward slowly. Shi Yi, who had been obedient all this time, suddenly turned violent, its eyes widened, nostrils flaring, letting out harsh snorting sounds. Before I could react, it lost control and bolted. As I sped past Chen Wanjun, I glanced back at her. Though her face looked startled, her eyes were dark and cold, sending a chill down my spine. So this was her true nature. The kind who acted, not hesitated. Amid Xiao Zhu's screams and the chaos behind me, Shi Yi charged off the grassland and into the forest. I leaned low against the horse's back. Its eyes were bloodshot, foam dripping from its mouth. It was clear someone had tampered with it. Such a fine horse. And they still dared to harm it. Should I be flattered that I was considered valuable enough to warrant this? Shi Yi raced wildly through the forest. The jolting nearly made me vomit everything I had eaten. I couldn't think of a way to calm it down, and I didn't have the heart to hurt it. Just as I was caught in a dilemma, the sound of approaching hooves echoed nearby. "Give me your hand." For the first time, I saw Chu Jingyun lose his usual composure. He shouted several times, his voice even cracking. After a brief hesitation, I released the reins and grabbed his hand. With a strong pull, he lifted me onto his horse. "Don't kill it." I grabbed his sleeve urgently. Chu Jingyun only gave a short then took out a small mechanical box. Several silver needles shot out instantly, striking Shi Ye's hindquarters. We watched as the horse gradually disappeared into the depths of the forest. Only then did Chu Jingyun slowly rein in his horse. "It's just a mild sedative." "That's good." I let out a sigh of relief. "You came just in time. Thank you for saving me. Are you hurt?" He frowned, looking me over carefully. Not wanting him to worry, I smiled and patted my chest. "I'm perfectly fine." But his expression remained dark, so I reached out and tugged at the corners of his mouth. "Don't look so serious. I'm really okay. Come on, smile a little." And just then, the horse suddenly stumbled. I hurriedly grabbed onto Chu Jingyun's shoulders to steady myself. "Careful." Chu Jingyun reached out and pulled me tightly into his arms. My face pressed against the front of his robe, and a faint orchid fragrance drifted over me, light, calming, and unexpectedly comforting. Your Highness the Princess Consort, are you all right?" The guards arrived on horseback at just the right moment. I had originally wanted to push Chu Jingyun away, but now I could only bury my face in his chest, too embarrassed to look at anyone. "We're fine. You all go that way. Find Shi Ye. Bring the veterinarian with you. Check on it, and don't harm it." "Yes." Only after the sound of hooves faded into the distance did I dare to lift my head. They didn't see my face just now. "Right? Are you trying to deceive yourself?" Chu Jingyun said. "Heavens. How embarrassing." I let out a long sigh, refusing to face reality. Chu Jingyun chuckled softly, the gloom between his brows finally easing. "Well then. If losing face could earn a beauty smile, it was worth it." I ended up laughing along with him. Since Chu Jingyun didn't return to the racecourse, I didn't see Chen Wanjun again. He simply turned the horse around and headed back to the summer palace, aside from my stomach feeling a little unsettled from being jolted around by Xie. I wasn't seriously hurt. When we reached the gates of the summer palace, Chu Jingyun didn't say a word. With smooth, practiced ease, he lifted me off the horse in one motion, causing the palace maids nearby to blush as they watched. This man. He looked refined, but he was surprisingly strong. Is that really necessary? I asked in a low voice. Chu Jingyun smiled faintly, a hint of cunning flashing in his eyes. This way, we can avoid quite a bit of trouble. My dear Princeton, weren't you supposed to be a refined and proper gentleman? Since when did you become like this? A chill ran down my spine. Very quickly, the entire summer palace heard the news. The princess consort of Princeton had been frightened by a horse and needed time to recover. The empress came to visit, worried. At that moment, I was sprawled lazily on the bed, eating watermelon and reading a book Chu Jingyun had brought me. Our eyes met. I hurriedly got up and bowed. The empress immediately understood what was going on. She smiled and gently patted my head. The emperor said that if you didn't scare the horse into running wild, it wouldn't have scared you. I didn't quite believe it before. But now it seems I overthought things. Mother Empress. Would you like some watermelon? I was speechless, not knowing how to respond. Chu Jingyun entered carrying a plate of lotus pastries. Seeing me holding out half a watermelon toward the empress, he couldn't help but laugh. Who offers watermelon like that? It should be cut and eaten with a spoon. This man clearly understood nothing about food. Ignoring his teasing, I took another spoon, scooped out the sweetest piece, and carefully brought it to the empress's lips. She paused for a moment, then gently leaned forward. Is it sweet? I asked, blinking. Sweet. But her smile was even sweeter than chilled summer watermelon. Seeing that I was fine, the empress soon felt reassured and left. I sat there holding my spoon. Smiling happily, Chu Jingyun placed the lotus pastries beside me and looked at me. You really like Mother Empress? She's so beautiful, who wouldn't like her? I said, stuffing another spoonful of watermelon into my mouth. Suddenly, Chu Jingyun leaned closer. His peach blossom eyes were calm, like the still surface of a lake. Do I treat you well? You do. How well? Well. I scooped another spoonful. You go out with me, buy me books, take me to eat delicious food. Another spoonful, and? You're handsome, kind, gentle. Going out together gives me face. Another spoonful, and? Isn't that enough? What else is there? One night, 7 times, all different. I nearly choked to death on that bite of watermelon. Coughing violently, I covered my mouth and looked at him in panic. Your Highness, please listen. Let me explain. Chu Jingyun gently patted my back, helping me catch my breath. Just as I finally recovered, he smiled and asked, how do you know that? I was wrong. I was talking nonsense. Please don't be angry. I'll find a way to clear up that rumor. I promised sincerely, no need. I'm not angry. His eyes were full of amusement. If you're not angry, could you please stand up? Holding the watermelon and supporting you like this is exhausting, you know. Chu Jingyun reached out, held my back, and pulled me closer, smiling softly. Want to try? In broad daylight. Try what? I don't think my ability is limited to just 7 times. Your Highness. Your son is acting like a hooligan in broad daylight. In sheer panic, I grabbed the half watermelon and smashed it onto his head before bolting out of the room. I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to. That was just too terrifying. By the time I calmed down, I had no idea which corner of the summer palace I had run to. Maybe I had run too fast, or maybe it was the heat, but my entire face felt like it was on fire. After taking a few deep breaths to steady myself, I suddenly imagined Chu Jingyun standing there with half a watermelon on his head. And a chill ran straight down my spine. I had a sinking feeling that I was doomed. Maybe I should just go home and hide for a few days. While I was still worrying about what had just happened, a faint rustling sound came from the distance. By the time I cautiously approached, there was no one left. After thinking for a moment, I lay flat on the ground and began searching for clues. Sure enough, I found a few footprints. Those people must have discovered me and hurriedly left, or perhaps it wasn't a coincidence at all. Meeting in such a secluded corner of the Emperor's summer palace, either they were discussing something that couldn't be known by others, or it was nothing good to begin with, trouble. Following the clearer set of footprints, I soon realized something. This person was extremely cautious. Instead of leaving immediately, they moved back and forth across the palace grounds, making it impossible to predict their route. As I tracked the trail, I noticed that they skillfully avoided patrol guards and even the agents of the Wuda Bureau. To know such confidential patrol routes, this person was definitely no ordinary figure. But then again, my current identity was the princess consort of Prince, and strictly speaking, this matter had nothing to do with me. Only now did I realize, I really did meddle too much. Just as I was about to call out for the Wuda Bureau to handle it, a gleaming dagger suddenly shot toward me from nowhere. So, he wanted to stir up this hornet's nest? Fine. I had no intention of holding back either. The fire that had been smoldering inside me for so long finally found an outlet. I easily dodged the sudden attack, spun around, and pulled at the sash around my waist. What looked like a soft, delicate belt instantly revealed a 2-foot-long curved blade. You forced me to marry into the prince's manor. You forced me to give up the power in my hands. You trapped me in this capital, unable to return to the western frontier. I may not be able to touch the emperor, but someone like you? Don't even dream of escaping. It had been a long time since I'd had such a satisfying fight. Unfortunately, before we could exchange many moves, the emperor, Chu Jisheng, arrived with the Wuda Bureau. Fair enough. With all the commotion we'd made, if they still hadn't shown up, I'd have to question their competence. Seeing the situation turn against him, the opponent released a smokescreen and tried to escape. Without hesitation, I pulled 3 flower beads from my hair and flung them toward him. From within the thick white smoke came a cry of pain. When the smoke cleared, the man had already been subdued by the guards, pinned to the ground. At his feet lay the scattered beads. Su Qing, Chu Jisheng spoke calmly. I clasped my hands in salute and explained how I had accidentally discovered a suspicious person and pursued them, to know the patrol schedules and hidden guard placements. This man is no ordinary criminal. Your Majesty, there is no poison in his mouth, and nothing suspicious was found on his body. This is the weapon he used. A shadow guard presented the dagger. I took it, intending to hand it over to Chu Jisheng, only to notice something. The pattern on the blade. It looked extremely familiar. My hand froze. Commander, please calm down. Why is it so noisy here? Stop her. Is he still breathing? Take him away. Don't let him die. Why are you all in such chaos? Are you certain? Chu Jisheng's deep voice cut through the noise, pulling me back to reality. Only then did I realize I was kneeling on one knee before him, the blood-stained dagger still in my hand. Blood? Where did this blood come from? I am certain, I answered seriously. This dagger and the one from years ago were forged by the same person. Chu Jisheng gestured for the guard to take it away. Though unwilling, I couldn't disobey. Su Qing, withdraw. This matter will be investigated by Zhou Jin. Do not act recklessly. Yes, Your Majesty. Zhou Jin was one of the 3 leading figures in the Wuda Bureau. This time, he had accompanied the emperor to the Summer Palace as part of the escort. I wasn't particularly familiar with him, but among the Wuda Bureau, he had a good reputation. Handing the matter over to him wasn't a bad choice, due to the nature of their work. Most members of the Wuda Bureau were eunuchs. The position of commander had always been held by the emperor's most trusted confidant, but Zhou Jin was not a eunuch. He was an orphan of the Zhou family, his entire family wiped out, leaving him alone. Now past 20, he still lived alone, with neither wife nor concubines, free of attachments. It was said that Zhou Jin had once been a loyal official in court, serving as a censor in the censorate, with a promising future ahead, but later, he offended someone powerful and was imprisoned. With no family backing and no influence, he had nearly been sentenced to death. Until Zhao Su, the commander of the Wuda Bureau, reopened the case and saved him. From then on, Zhou Jin joined the Wuda Bureau, and became a sharp blade in the emperor's hand. In this life, no one truly knows what lies ahead. I kept turning over all sorts of useless thoughts in my mind, and only after returning to my small courtyard did I suddenly remember. There was still someone here whose head I had just smashed with half a watermelon. While I was still hesitating, unsure whether I should run or stay, the bath chamber door opened. Chu Jingyun appeared, dressed only in his inner robes. Water droplets still clung to his body, glistening under the sunlight. His face, freshly bathed, carried a faint flush. My sudden presence clearly caught him off guard. Lately, my life seemed to be filled with far too many shocks. What just happened was my fault. I didn't do it on purpose. I came to apologize. I hope Your Highness will be magnanimous and spare my life. My strong survival instinct kicked in, and I blurted everything out in one breath, head lowered. By the time my mind caught up with my mouth, Chu Jingyun had already adjusted his hair and smiled gently. The one who should apologize is me. I was too rash earlier and frightened you. No, you didn't do anything. I just overreacted. Are you hurt? I waved my hands hurriedly. Chu Jingyun smiled and slowly shook his head. I'm fine. What a pity for that half of chilled watermelon. I complained silently to myself, not daring to say it aloud. Thank you, Prince, for your generosity and for not holding a grudge against a petty person like me. I didn't dare add another word. Living really isn't easy. Just as I finished dealing with Chu Jingyun, Zhou Jin arrived at the door. His dark blue attire made him look even more upright and resolute, like a tall bamboo standing firm. His appearance was 3 parts handsome, 7 parts refined. His entire demeanor radiated integrity and strength, completely at odds with the usual image of someone from the Wuda Bureau. As expected of a loyal minister, he first bowed to Chu Jingyun. But when facing me, he seemed a little hesitant. Meeting him like this made me somewhat awkward too. When it came to rank, who exactly should bow to whom? Lord Zhou, let's skip the formalities and get straight to business. I decisively threw etiquette aside. My actions seemed to please Zhou Jin. His gaze softened slightly, though his expression remained serious. The Wuda Bureau has begun investigating the pattern on the dagger. I wonder if Miss Su has any connections within the military artisans? I've had some dealings with them. In that case, I'll give you a token to make your actions more convenient. This is my command badge. Zhou Jin handed me a golden token along with a small bamboo whistle. Thank you, Lord Zhou. Oh, right, these are your pearl ornaments. Since they're delicate items, I was afraid of damaging them, so I didn't clean them myself. I'll have to trouble you to do it. He took out the pearl hair ornaments, carefully wrapped in a handkerchief. I hadn't expected him to be so considerate. Smiling, I accepted them. Not at all. I thought I wouldn't be able to get them back. Thank you for taking care of such trivial matters. You're too polite. Then I'll take my leave. Take care. Watching Zhou Jin's retreating figure, I held the items in my hands and turned back to my room. As I passed by Chu Jingyun, he suddenly spoke in a calm voice. You seem very excited. What? I stopped abruptly and turned to look at him, completely confused. Be careful. After saying that, Chu Jingyun entered the room. Only then did I realize my palms were drenched in sweat. The hand gripping the token was trembling from exertion, the edges biting painfully into my skin. Excited? Of course I was. As I drew closer and closer to the truth of what happened 10 years ago, I wasn't just excited, I was exhilarated. Marrying Princeton had turned out to be a good thing after all. From the very beginning, I knew one major reason why Chu Jixing had forced me to marry Chu Jingyun. He wanted me to leave the western frontier. He hoped I would stop involving myself in what happened back then, and he used marriage as a way to pull me away from the Wuda Bureau. That's right. Before my marriage, I was the commanding officer of the Wuda Bureau. Only, my post wasn't in the capital, Tinnan City. It was in the western frontier. My primary mission was to uncover the real culprit behind the assassination attempt on the emperor 10 years ago. Back then, during an imperial inspection tour in the western frontier, the emperor was ambushed. My mother, who was also Chu Jixing's maternal cousin, disguised herself as him to lure the assassins away. She died because of it. At the time, I was only 7 years old, disguised as a palace maid at her side. When Chu Jixing arrived with reinforcements, I was the only one he managed to save. Injured and unconscious, he flew into a rage and ordered Zhao Su to personally investigate the case. From the Dali Temple to the Guanlu office, from the Ministry of Justice to the Censorate, everyone was dragged into the investigation, and yet, nothing came of it. That incident became like a poison thorn lodged in my heart. Over time, the wound festered, eating away at my mind, watching me grow more and more consumed by obsession. My father and the emperor, who was also my uncle, had no choice but to stage a clumsy political marriage. Power could be regained. A marriage without love could be dissolved. As long as a person was alive, everything could still be fixed. I have to admit, my father truly understood me. With a single move, he struck right at my weakness, leaving me no choice but to walk straight into the trap. I also understood that I should think for the sake of the people still by my side. I once thought that if, by the time my 5th younger sister got married, I still hadn't found the real culprit, then I would give up. After that, I would go to Jiangnan, open a tea house, and live out quiet, leisurely days. But no one expected that less than 2 months after I returned to the capital, I would actually uncover the truth that had left no trace for 10 whole years, perhaps. This was fate. The news that the prince and his consort had been frightened and returned to the prince's manor to recuperate began to spread. At last, I could change into the dark blue uniform of the Wuda Bureau, put on a half-mask to cover my face, and return to the cold, ruthless persona of a commandant. Back in the western frontier, no one had ever suspected my identity. No one had even doubted that I was a woman. Was I really that flat? A little displeased, I touched my own chest, then, without thinking, reached out and touched Zhou Jin's chest beside me. He froze in shock at my strange behavior. By the time he tried to dodge, I had already withdrawn my hand, touched my own chest again, and muttered, "Not bad." "What are you doing?" Zhou Jin looked at me with an expression too complicated to describe. I adjusted my collar and tightened my belt. "Nothing. Just briefly doubting my own gender." Oh. "What do you mean, oh?" He really had a talent for leaving people speechless. My face darkened as I strode into the Imperial dungeon. The assassin captured the other day was indeed stubborn. The people of the Wuda Bureau had interrogated him for an entire day and night without getting any useful information. All he did was shout wildly, demanding that they kill him if they had the guts. Dying wasn't going to be that easy. "Lord Zhou, leave this to me. During this time, please focus on ensuring the Emperor's safety." Zhou Jin looked at me as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he only nodded and turned to leave. I crossed my arms, looking at the man before me, a faint smile curling at my lips, and had him taken into the interrogation room. It took me 5 full days to finally pry that stubborn man's mouth open. After obtaining the information I needed, I walked out of the Imperial dungeon under the complicated gazes of those around me. Zhou Jin, however, remained as calm as ever. He even brought me to his residence, letting me bathe and rest before taking the information I had extracted and leaving swiftly. His courtyard was small, only a bedroom and a bathing room. If not for the high-quality furnishings, one might have thought the court was mistreating a third-rank official of the Wuda Bureau like him. Clothes had already been prepared for me on the bed. The bath water was ready, and the tub was even sprinkled with flower petals. Zhou Jin was truly meticulous. I sat on a stool, rinsed the dirt from my body, then stepped into the petal-filled bath. Warm water washed away all the exhaustion of the past few days. The faint fragrance of flowers eased my mind. A man like Zhou Jin, still unmarried at his age. It really made no sense. Leaning against the edge of the tub, I sighed softly and slowly closed my eyes. So it was him, the person who had haunted my dreams for 10 years, tormenting me night after night. His true face was finally beginning to emerge. At the moment I learned the truth I had long carried in my heart, I had wanted to throw everything away and stab him without hesitation. But I couldn't, because killing him wouldn't solve anything. Suddenly, a noise came from outside, interrupting my thoughts. It sounded like someone had entered. Then came hurried, chaotic footsteps. Zhou Jin? What could make him so rushed? Sensing something was wrong, I immediately stepped out of the bath. Without even drying myself, I grabbed a thin robe nearby and threw it on. Before I could even tie my sash, the bathing room door was slammed open. The person stumbled inside, quickly shut the door, and turned to look at me. Heavens! Why hadn't I locked the door while bathing? What happened to you? It took me a moment to react before I hurried toward him. There was clearly something wrong with Chu Jingyun. But before I could question him, the chaotic footsteps outside grew louder. Hide first. I helped Chu Jingyun into the bath. The flower petals Zhou Jin had prepared turned out to be unexpectedly useful. Just as I finished hiding him beneath the water, the bath chamber door was pushed open again. Why hadn't Chu Jingyun locked the door either? I grabbed the short blade beside me, pulling it from its sheath. A cold gleam flashed along its edge. At the same time, voices shouted outside. Looking at the flustered palace maids at the door, I spoke coldly. "Who are you?" The maids stammered, unable to form a proper sentence. Then, from behind them, a familiar voice rang out. "That lecher must be hiding in here." So, it was someone I knew. Consorta entered with an arrogant air, but the moment she saw the scene before her, she was visibly startled. Just as I was about to make a move, A palace maid beside her raised her voice sharply and shouted, "How dare you! This is consorta, show some respect." A consort of the harem dares to barge into the inner quarters of the Wuda Bureau? Who gave you such courage? My gaze swept over them coldly. The maids immediately turned pale, their bodies trembling. After a brief moment of thought, Consorta's expression changed completely, though she still forced herself to speak in a raised voice. "Are you someone from Lord Zhou's household?" "I am a commandant of the Wuda Bureau." I lifted the token Zhou Jin had given me and held it before them. This time, even Consorta began to tremble. The Wuda Bureau was the blade in the emperor's hand, untouchable by anyone, let alone a mere consort like her. Even the Empress Dowager did not have such authority, and the title commandant was an even more dangerous blade, poisoned, and not something just anyone could provoke. So it is the commandant. My apologies. My apologies. Consorta softened her tone, trying to ease the tension. May I ask, did you see a man run in here? No, but we clearly saw. It was that talkative maid again. The short blade in my hand moved slightly, just one motion, and a lock of her hair fell cleanly to the ground. She collapsed to her knees in terror, trembling uncontrollably, her disheveled appearance almost pitiful. Disaster truly comes from the mouth. If you can't avoid trouble, then at least don't invite it with careless words. I sheathed my blade with one hand and lifted my chin slightly. Though the mask covered half my face, my presence was still oppressive. If someone had broken in, what would be lying on the ground right now? Would be his head. Some people really won't shed tears until they see the coffin. Once they all left, I hurried to shut the door and lock it tightly, wishing I could barricade it as well. Then I rushed back to the bath, pushing aside the floating petals as I called softly, "Your Highness. Are you all right?" Suddenly, my wrist was seized. Chu Jingyun rose from the water. His face was pale, yet flushed in an unnatural way. His brows were tightly furrowed, as if he were enduring something. Those peach blossom eyes churned with hidden waves. Droplets clung to his lashes, falling with each blink. Pale pink petals rested against his forehead, like delicate makeup. "Have you been poisoned?" His hot breath brushed against my face, carrying a strange scent. I grabbed his wrist to check his pulse. Chu Jingyun turned his head slightly and spoke in a low voice, "Not poison." Then why were his ears turning red? Just as I was about to stand, my wrist was seized again. At first, I thought it was just the heat of the bathwater, but now I realized his entire body was burning hot. What on earth was wrong with this man? Frowning, I was about to question him further when he suddenly clutched his chest in pain, eyes tightly shut, his breathing rapid. Hey, don't die on me. If you collapse like this, how am I supposed to ever soak in a bath again without trauma? I couldn't let him stay in the water like this. But in this position, it was hard to exert any strength. After hesitating for a moment, I gritted my teeth and stepped into the bath, wrapping my arms around his waist to help him up. "Can you stand?" "You're burning up, I'll get you out first." The body in my arms suddenly stiffened. Before I could react, the world spun, and in the instant I fell into the water. His scorching lips pressed against mine. Damn it, if you were drugged with an aphrodisiac, you could have just said so. A moment ago, I had been worried he might die in the bath. Now, I was far more concerned about my own safety. I held my breath, not daring to struggle too much. The moment his burning lips left mine, I shot upright, wiped the water from my face, and gasped for air. But before I could say anything, his hand slid behind my neck, pulling me back into another kiss. His entire body was burning hot. His lashes trembled faintly as his eyes remained shut. the corners tinged with a flushed redness. After struggling for a while, the thin robe on my body was already in worse condition than if I had worn nothing at all. Chu Jingyun lowered his head against my neck, his hot breath brushing against my skin. Seizing the moment, I grabbed his wrist again. His pulse pounded wildly, like firecrackers on a wedding night. To endure it for so long. Prince and truly wasn't an ordinary man, Jin's. I'm sorry. His voice was hoarse. The fingers gripping my shoulder were restrained, yet still painfully strong. This was definitely not going to be a pleasant experience. But at least one thing comforted me, he hadn't called out another woman's name. At last, I understood why Chu Jingyun hadn't needed me to dispel those rumors, because he really could. Go 7 times in one night. How did I know? Well, I experienced it myself. Satisfied, when I woke up, I had already been brought back to my own courtyard. My body was clean, lying on a soft bed. Beside me were 2 basins of ice, giving off a cool chill. The first thought that came to mind was, I felt incredibly sorry for Zhou Jin. He had kindly lent me a place to rest. And it ended up like this. Hopefully, Chu Jingyun still had enough sense of decency to clean everything up properly for him. As I tried to get up, I realized my whole body ached as if my bones had been shattered, and my throat burned dry like fire. I struggled over to the table, poured myself a cup of tea, and before I could even finish drinking it, Chu Jingyun pushed the door open and walked in. Once again, our eyes met. I calmly continued drinking my tea. Chu Jingyun hesitated for a long while before finally gritting his teeth and sitting down beside me, trying to look composed and dignified, almost as if I were the one who had been drugged and forced myself on him. He handed me the porcelain cup in his hand. It felt slightly cool to the touch. When I opened it, I saw a brown-colored soup inside. It tasted faintly sweet, not exactly delicious, but not unpleasant either. Back at the prince's manor, I often drank this soup, and Chu Jingyun drank it too. I didn't know exactly what it did, but it was probably something to calm the nerves and nourish the body. Besides, he made it himself. Considering he had always treated me fairly well, I obediently finished it every time. So now, when he handed me this bowl, I didn't find it strange at all. The soup went down smoothly. Spoonful after spoonful, I quickly finished more than half the bowl. After staying silent for a long time, Chu Jingyun finally spoke cautiously. Are you all right? My waist aches, my back hurts, my legs cramp. How could I be all right? I didn't expect you to be there either. Who would have thought that in the inner courtyard of the Wuda Bureau, there would be a woman bathing? I was drugged, with both a sedative and Lengxiang intoxication. I truly couldn't control myself. Then I should compliment your endurance. An ordinary person under those 2 drugs would have already lost control on the spot. Jins. I will take responsibility. Chu Jingyun suddenly grabbed my hand tightly. I turned to look at him in surprise. After hesitating for a moment, I put down the spoon. No need for that. My voice was so hoarse I couldn't finish the sentence. I pointed at my throat and waved my hand. This wasn't the time for too much talking, Jins, don't worry. I mean it sincerely. Facing a Chu Jingyun filled with guilt and self-blame only made things more troublesome. Besides, this wasn't the moment to argue with him. I raised my hand to stop him. Seeing him obediently fall silent and look at me, I let out a helpless sigh. Then I dipped my finger in tea and wrote on the table. What exactly happened? A flicker of light flashed in Chu Jingyun's eyes. He pressed his lips together, clearly blaming himself. I fell into someone else's trap. Prince Jingyun, renowned for his peerless beauty, gentle temperament, and impeccable upbringing. His mother was the empress, his maternal family a prestigious clan. He was the dream lover of countless noble ladies in Nanping, and the ideal son-in-law for countless aristocratic families. If not for his usual indifference toward power, there would probably be no shortage of people desperately pushing him toward the crown prince position. But after spending time with him, I had come to deeply understand that his mind was unfathomably deep, darker than the Inkavita pavilion itself. I was genuinely curious which suicidal fool dared to plot something like this against him. This incident was indeed suspicious. Neither Chu Jingyun himself nor the guards constantly at his side knew how he had been drugged. He had simply followed his usual routine, dining with the empress, then heading to Yunhe courtyard to practice music. Yet the moment he stepped into the courtyard, his head spun. Before he could call for help, he lost consciousness. When he woke up, he found himself in an unfamiliar room. Beside him was Chen Wanjun, her clothes disheveled. Chu Jingyun reacted instantly. Without caring whether Chen Wanjun was conscious or not, he knocked her out in a single move. By then, the drug had already begun to take effect. He hurriedly searched for an antidote while sealing his own acupoints. Before he could even figure out what was going on, chaotic noises erupted outside. Someone was shouting that a man had broken into a young lady's chamber. Taking a deep breath, Chu Jingyun leapt out the back window to escape. The pursuers chased after him. As his body gradually lost its endurance, in his dazed state, he ran into Zhou Jin's courtyard. "So, you woke up in Consort des Fanghua courtyard?" I wrote on paper and showed it to him. Chu Jingyun nodded firmly. I continued writing. "You don't suspect Chen Wanjun? It can't be her." He answered without hesitation. I put down the brush, tossed the paper into the wash basin, and watched the ink dissolve into black in the water. Fine, if he said it wasn't her, then so be it. I already had my hands full with my own investigation. I had no time to meddle in his affairs as well. Moreover, judging from the way he spoke, he clearly hadn't suffered any loss in that matter. I sent Xiao Zhu to fetch me a set of palace-made clothing, then prepared to go find Zhou Jin. Seeing that dusk was falling, Chu Jingyun asked if I wanted to stay for dinner and rest for the night before leaving. I shook my head and said I would return under the cover of darkness to avoid drawing attention. The moment I stepped into the small courtyard, I ran into Zhou Jin. When he saw what I was wearing, he froze for a moment. I pointed at my throat, waved my hand, then quickly slipped into the bath chamber. Fortunately, everything had already been cleaned up. My clothes and the long blade were still on the chair. After changing into the outfit Zhou Jin had prepared, I picked up the blade and returned to the bedroom. Zhou Jin was sitting there eating noodles. When he saw me, he took out another bowl from a basket and pushed it toward me. "What happened to your throat?" I sat down beside him, grabbed a brush, scribbled a few words, then buried my head in the noodles. I hadn't eaten anything all day. I was starving. Zhou Jin glanced at what I had written and frowned slightly. Prince Jingyun was drugged. "You suspect Consort De and Chen Wanjun?" Not just suspecting, I could practically confirm it was the two of them. Who else could it be? Lingxiang intoxication was potent, but its effects didn't last long. It needed to be combined with incense to sustain its influence and maximize the drug's effect. That was why Chu Jingyun had been tormented to such an extent, and when he woke up, Chen Wanjun was in the same room with him. If she wasn't suspicious, then pigs could fly. Consort De had acted too hastily. If she had waited another half-hour before barging in to catch them in the act, Chu Jingyun might have simply gone along with it, turning everything into a done deal. After all, The way he defended Chen Wanjun clearly showed how skilled she was at acting. As for what Xiao Zhu had said before, it proved nothing. No matter what, I was the properly wedded princess consort. That girl would have to be a fool to tell me the truth. Zhou Jin had initially wanted to help me investigate this matter, but on one hand, we had something far more important to deal with. On the other, since the victim himself didn't intend to pursue it, there was no reason for outsiders like us to rush in, so I told him not to waste his efforts. I only told him that my throat had been affected by inhaling the drugged incense while rescuing Chu Jingyun, and that it would recover in a few days. Otherwise, what was I supposed to say? That I had been overwhelmed by the heat in my body after being taken by my nominal husband to the point my throat felt scorched. Zhou Jin truly lived up to his reputation as one of the most conscientious men in the Wuda Bureau. He gave me the bedroom and went to rest at the guard post. After several exhausting days, I finally got a peaceful night's sleep. I slept straight through until the sun was high in the sky. When I woke up, my mind was still hazy. Sitting on the bed in a daze, I felt like I had forgotten something extremely important. As I absently touched my stomach, it suddenly hit me. Startled, I hurriedly got dressed, tied my sash, and rushed toward the Imperial Medical Institute, my heart pounding. Xiang Zishi was sitting right at the steps, slurping noodles. When he saw me, he opened his mouth and bit into a clove of garlic. "My lord, you've arrived. Eating garlic first thing in the morning? Aren't you afraid some noble person will smell it and have you beaten?" I stepped back in disgust. Xiang Zishi gulped down the rest of his noodles, stood up, and let out a loud belch. "Today I'm only handling medicinal duties in the back courtyard." "My lord, what brings you here?" "Prepare a bowl of contraceptive medicine for me." The bowl in Xiang Zishi's hand nearly slipped. I quickly caught it and handed it back to him. "My lord, you can't take your anger out on the child just because you can't defeat its father, can you?" This idiot actually thought I was trying to harm one of Chu Jisheng's consorts. If they were pregnant, what did that have to do with me? I looked at him with pity, like he was a fool, my tone dripping with disdain. "What are you thinking? Harming an imperial heir is a grave crime punishable by extermination of the entire clan. I'm not a consort competing for favor. Do you think I've lost my mind?" "That's good. That's good." Xiang Zishi let out a sigh of relief and led me to the back courtyard. "Then who is the medicine for?" "For me, of course." This time, the bowl of noodles in his hand met its inevitable tragic fate. While I wandered around the Imperial Medical Institute, Xiang Zishi squatted by the stove, fanning the fire as the medicine simmered, steam rising thickly. He frowned deeply, looking as if someone had stolen a fortune from him. "I'm only taking contraceptive medicine, not trying to abort a child. And even if I were pregnant, it wouldn't be yours. Why do you look so miserable?" I crouched beside him and poked his face. Xiang Zishi angrily dodged and shot me a glare. "Wouldn't it be better to just give birth? Don't you like children? This child is not acceptable. I don't want it to be born without a father." "How could the child not have a father?" "My lady, you are the rightful princess consort. Whether it's a boy or a girl, the child would be the legitimate heir of the household. That's exactly why it must not be born." "Why not?" Xiang Zishi looked just like a fool. I propped my chin in my hand, tilted my head, and couldn't help but laugh. "Yes. Why not? Because Chu Jingyun doesn't love me. I am only the princess consort in name. When the crown prince marries, I will have to give up this position to the woman Chu Jingyun truly loves. This child is destined to never have a father. it might even become a pawn in the struggle for power. Children. I only hope that if one comes into this world, it will be welcomed with anticipation and blessings, and live a peaceful, happy life. Wait, the way I'm saying this, it sounds as if I'm already pregnant. In truth, I only wanted a bowl of contraceptive medicine. Under my insistence, Xiang Zishi finally finished brewing it, though he still couldn't give up and asked one last time, "Do you really have to drink it? Stop talking nonsense." Without hesitation, I reached out for the bowl, but at that very moment, I suddenly stepped back, turned, and stood in front of Xiang Zishi, shielding him. The guard on my wrist clashed with a hidden projectile that shot out from nowhere, producing a sharp, piercing sound. The bowl of medicine fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. I pulled Xiang Zishi aside. My gaze swept over the fragments on the floor before I coldly scanned the surroundings. What happened? Xiang Zishi clutched my arm in panic, like a chick hiding under its mother's wings. It was almost comical. Still, I was quite satisfied with his reaction. As a frail scholar who couldn't even trust a chicken, he always behaved obediently in dangerous situations and had never once caused trouble. Perhaps the attacker had already left. Only after the sense of danger faded did I let out a breath. Xiang Zishi immediately stood up, ignoring his disheveled state, grabbed my left hand, and pulled it closer. "Let me see." After removing the wrist guard, a dark bruise was revealed, making him frown. He immediately dragged me to get medicinal wine to treat it. Was it them? No. If it were those people, it wouldn't be just a minor injury like this. The hidden weapon had been aimed at the bowl in Xiang Zishi's hand. If I hadn't blocked it, he might have ended up with a broken arm, or at the very least, badly burned by the hot medicine. Daring to touch someone under my protection, they must be tired of living. I had already arranged for someone from the Wuda Bureau, Wang Qiao, to stay by Xiang Zishi's side under the pretense of learning medicine. A girl who spent all day in the kitchen could turn around and become a graceful beauty, making the unmarried men of the Imperial Medical Institute so jealous they nearly fell ill. If I told them that Wang Qiao and Xiang Zishi were actually husband and wife, would they lose their minds and try to poison him out of spite? Jokes aside, what happened to Xiang Zishi couldn't be ignored. Although there were more important matters at hand, that didn't mean I couldn't spare time to deal with these restless troublemakers. The opponent had been careless. It took the Wuda Bureau only 2 days to uncover everything, which surprised even me. After some thought, I decided it would be better to leave the other party some dignity. So today, I got up early, dressed neatly in the uniform of the Wuda Bureau, fastened my belt, cleaned my mask, and carefully put it on. I thought this formal appearance showed respect, but judging from Xiao Zhu's terrified expression, it seemed to have the opposite effect. Clearly, I came alone, yet she looked as though I had brought an entire army for revenge. She trembled as she spoke, her voice filled with the resolve to perish together with me if necessary. My respects, Commander. The Wuda Bureau's command envoy requests an audience with Prince Jingyun. Though my tone was only slightly cold, Xiao Zhu's face turned pale. She stared at me like a cat with fur bristling. Ready to fight to the death, Commander. May I ask what important matter brings you to His Highness? I didn't want to scare her further. If I said another word, she might burst into tears and throw herself at me, so I softened my tone. I just need Prince Jingyun to confirm something. Please inform him. Xiao Zhu froze, then hesitantly spoke, Princess Consort. I was startled. Was my voice really that recognizable? Xiao Zhu knew I hadn't returned to the prince's manor because I had other matters to attend to. But she didn't know I worked for the Wuda Bureau, nor that I was its command envoy. Princess consort, you scared me to death. I thought someone had come for revenge. She patted her chest in relief and led me into the reception hall. His Highness is currently having breakfast with the Empress. He'll be back shortly. Princess consort, have you eaten yet? No, then I'll go prepare something. Life in the prince's manor really was something else. Xiao Zhu brought me some pastries to fill my stomach, then hurried off to the kitchen to cook me a bowl of noodles. She even made 2 stir-fried dishes I liked. After breakfast, she brought over a pile of sweets and sat nearby doing embroidery while chatting non-stop. I nibbled on red bean cakes, listening to her ramble about everything under the sun. I'll have to return to the Wuda Bureau later. Pack me some pastries, will you? I like the lotus root cakes and the bean-filled ones you make best. Your Highness. I've never made lotus root cakes before. Not here. I mean back at the prince's manor. Oh right, the lotus blossom cakes are good too. Your Highness, all the pastries at the prince's manor are made by Zhu Shu. Xiao Zhu paused, looking at me oddly. Then I must have remembered wrong. The chilled mung bean soup was sweet and refreshing. I drank half the bowl in one go. Pack me some lotus seed candy too. Yes. Xiao Zhu stood and walked out. Then suddenly turned back at the door. Sister, yesterday I made braised beef. It goes well with mantou or wraps. Xiao Zhu, I could just adore you to death. Chu Jingyun returned earlier than usual. Someone must have informed him. When he walked in, there wasn't a hint of surprise. His attitude was as gentle as ever. Why are you dressed like this? I gestured for him to sit, then went straight to the point. Call Lan Qin in. Chu Jingyun smiled as always. Even now, his mood seemed completely steady. Among his 4 trusted aides, Mei Qian the steward, Lan Qin the guard, Zhu Shi who handled daily affairs, and Zhu Shu in charge of the kitchen, Lan Qin was responsible for his hidden protection, and she was the only one who had never met me since I entered the prince's manor. Lan Qin arrived dressed in a guard's uniform, a dagger at her waist, hair tied in a simple high ponytail. Her face was bare of makeup, cold and proud. After bowing, she said nothing. I picked up a peach and took a bite, suddenly feeling that this matter might not be as simple as I'd thought. Seeing the silence, Chu Jingyun frowned slightly. Lan Qin, what happened? I don't know, she replied crisply. I couldn't help but laugh. Miss Lan, are you underestimating the Wuda Bureau? Or do you think my title as commander is just for show? She frowned faintly. What did I do wrong? Chu Jingyun turned to me. It's nothing major. I hesitated. After all, Lan Qin clearly held an important place in his heart. Making a scene in front of him didn't seem entirely appropriate. How about you step out for a moment? I'd like to speak to her alone. What is it that you don't want His Highness to hear? Lan Qin suddenly spoke, her tone cold and edged with hostility. That did it. In an instant, whatever restraint I had vanished. Honestly, what was wrong with people like this? You all. Are your brains broken? You like someone but keep it bottled up. Then when he marries someone else, you start acting out behind his back. Do you really think that by scheming like this you can take my place? When you had the chance, what were you doing? When both of you were single, why didn't you say anything? Now that he's married, you stir up trouble. Whoever marries into this household must have offended fate in 8 lifetimes. I hurled the peach straight at Lan Qin. She cried out softly, clutching her arm, eyes filling with tears. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to Love Stories with Lisa for more stories. Thank you so much.